to Bisexual Killjoy, the place where we know bisexuality isn't a phase, it's a phenomenon. I'm Bailey, and this is...
Jace.
All right, friends, we have talked a lot about the past. I mean, we have been strolling down memory lane for this past season, which has been super exciting because these are stories that I have never heard and never thought to think of. And we've learned a lot, but now we want to take all of that knowledge and put it to good use. And because us young people aren't just the future, we're the ones building the present, we are so excited to have Steve from Give It To Me By as our special guest. Chad was unfortunately unable to join us today, but we're sending him big love and are honored that Steve is here to have this great conversation with us as we get into the nitty-gritty of crafting a movement and making a change in today's world.
Chad Barnier and Steve Spencer are the masterminds behind the Give It To Me By podcast, a podcast with a mission to amplify bi+ voices, challenge stereotypes, and build community for everyone under the bi+ umbrella. Their podcast was born out of a desire to create something impactful for the bi+ community, a space where they could bring their perspectives. With Chad's background in marketing and Steve's health research, they've crafted the bi+ space they dreamed of. From legislative advocacy to passionate storytelling, this dynamic duo is uniquely committed to making sure bi+ voices are seen and heard. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be on the show.
So, I mean, something we've talked a lot about this season is the labor of crafting, keeping, and making bi+ history throughout the years. I think something Jace and I have learned is bi+ folks have been a part of queer movements since the movement got going, right? And we've always been around. But we're ready to close out the season, and we're looking to the future of the bi+ movement. We want to think about what's lighting up the next generation, what's getting younger bi+ folks excited and involved in the vision. And we'd like to reflect on these new beginnings. And so specifically with the Give It To Me By podcast, we want to know, how the hell did you and Chad meet?
So, God, we met years ago, actually. It was through a lot of our advocacy that we did sort of in tandem here in Sydney in Australia, and our paths kept on overlapping. And then we became pretty immediate co-conspirators, collaborators, just with the most iconic group of advocates here in New South Wales. You know, we share a similar worldview. I love that we're talking about the future, because basically how we got to where we are is we envision what does the perfect world look like for bi+ people, and then working our way back from that. So what do we have? What are we lacking? And, you know, the irony isn't lost on us that we're two white dudes with a podcast. We're not breaking ground here. You know, we're very aware of that, and we're just so grateful for the guests that come on our show. One esteemed guest is here with us today who bring in not just our perspective. So we don't just want to give it to you from our bi+ perspective, but we want to hear from everyone, because we learnt everything we know from someone else. It's just amazing to be able to have a platform to be able to channel that to people and not just give people information or give people community, but watch people form their own community and provide us with information. It's such an amazing 2-way, 3-way, 4-way street, giving people a sense that we're not just in control of our own lives, but we can actually control our collective future. That's what we hope to do, and also a bit of a laugh on the way.
Gotta be fun, right?
It's gotta be fun.
I'm curious, what kind of organizing were you doing with folks? Like, who were you working with? What's the actual, detailed story with all the juicy bits?
Yeah, there are plenty of witnesses to our beautiful union. So we were involved with the Sydney Bi+ Network. They're the most phenomenal grassroots bi+ community organisation. They run off the smell of an oily rag. People in advocacy know that feeling very, very well. But they do the most impactful, not just work, but then impactful community building. So we ran a couple of campaigns through that. So we ran Australia's first HIV bi+ campaign. We invited all of the large, big paid community organisations. You know, here in Australia, it's very formalised. There are large organisations for different queer groups, for community health, and they've always missed the mark on bi+ stuff. So we identified a gap and we went for it, and we realised, hey, if we want to see change, we can do something about it, and it can actually be impactful. That's sort of where we got started. But yeah, the Sydney Bi+ Network brought us together. This all wouldn't exist without them, and that's really the power of community building, because the Sydney Bi+ Network started from a very similar story, and every other organisation just sort of started from these collaborations that happened, and people, you know, brave enough, or I don't know, we all have the motivation. I think it's also about the confidence just to go, yeah, let's bloody do it.
You know, it's funny you say that, because Jason and I met through the Bisexual Resource Center here in the States, and most collaborations start because you had an interest, right? Now, having been in the organizing space for a while, having started your own podcast, when you entered organizing generally, were you doing HIV/AIDS research and advocacy and then moved into BI+ research and advocacy? Or what was that stepping stone for you?
Yeah, so working in the BI+ movement, it's not my first rodeo. So I really started in HIV advocacy when I was quite young. The first community organization I founded was a group called Prep Access Now. I was like 23, and looking back, I'm like a 23-year-old had no business like running this ridiculous monster. But we were a team of 5, and we became the largest private provider of PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's a pill that prevents HIV transmission. We became a private provider of that, and we made an online platform. And this is back when governments were not willing to go near it or were being really, really taking their time with it. And what we said was, why should we wait? We have the tools available to us. And that's sort of what Chad and I, we really share that sort of vision of like, why wait? We can be patient, but we need to start somewhere. Yeah, so I sort of cut my teeth in the HIV space and the sexual health space. And I'm a sexual health researcher at the Kirby Institute here in the University of New South Wales. And that really gave me that grounding and sort of depressing understanding that things take time and some things require evidence, but then the importance of lived experience, because in advocacy, it's so often siloed off. And what we try and do on our podcast is to actually bring all of those different elements together, because at the end of the day, we're here to change hearts and minds, and we're here to make people feel connected. And you don't do that by speaking to them in ways they don't want to speak.
Do you see where audacity will take you?
Totally.
Audacity will take you far. And spite. BI+ spite will take you to the ends of the earth. I think we have learned that so much.
Absolutely. I think in my notes, I was writing some stuff about what inspires me. And I'm like, these are all things that I'm like spiteful over. I should really find some positive influences.
Look, spite is the thing that gets you off the ground, and then the hope and the joy keep you going.
And speaking of community and the importance, something that we have noticed and that we know is that BI+ educational and advocacy projects rely on teamwork. It is a crucial aspect of our survival, especially for us 5th generation BI+ activists. And we've talked a little bit about that throughout the season. We're so happy to see another duo that matches each other's BI+ spite and determination to end up with something really beautiful out in the world. As you planned out this project, which of your strengths did you play to?
So because I started advocacy quite young, I became a really good talking head. So I give great talking head, and we all have our own way of communicating. And I'm pretty proud of the way that I communicate what I need to, the messages and the arguments that I need to convince people over. But what I don't have, and Chad will attest to this, and I can hear him yelling off, a few kilometers away, the admin stuff, the admin side of it, having a project like this, a behemoth like this, running a podcast is not easy. No.
Thank you for saying it. It's not easy.
So that is not my strength. We complement each other really well. And that's really important as well. You find people that you gel with, that you can really have tough conversations with, and that, you have really core guiding principles that you don't really waver from. And that's really most important. Yeah, I definitely know where I'm trying to think like, what do I bring to the table? Oh yeah, I just...
I have a nice smile and I have good talking points.
Talking is such a crucial part of the work. That's nothing to shy away from.
No, definitely. Also, over years of working in advocacy, I'm in a really lucky position to have sort of spread my tentacles out into lots of different spaces, and spaces that make a lot of people uncomfortable. I have to work with people who don't agree with me, who don't believe that people like us exist, and being able to utilize those and either bring them on board or use those sorts of resources, that's been something that I'm really proud to be able to bring, because everyone sort of has their own skill set and finds their place, and you need to come together and figure out what we can bring, and everyone is valuable. Like every little bit counts. And there are people like me that don't know how to send emails. So, if...
That's okay. It's okay to not know how to do that. Okay. I'm actually reading an essay right now by Lorraine Hutchins that I want to talk more about in our season finale, but they touch on this exactly. It's the movement needs everybody. There are so many things that I'm bad at that Jace is good at, and there's so many things that Jace's bad at that I'm good at, and it's okay. And having a relationship where we can be honest about our strengths and our pitfalls and like bridging the gaps is so important. I think sometimes people come to this work with a lot of ego and they feel like I have to be right, I have to be perfect, my way or the highway. But the long termers, the long haul folks realize I'm really good at some stuff and other things that are just going to have to get done by somebody else.
And there are some things that we're going to have to learn along the way. Advocacy work, activist work, starting anything from scratch is a lesson in growing into yourself. Here is something that I didn't know I needed, so I'm just going to go for it and take a new skill, a new course, go off the deep end and maybe Google some YouTube tutorials.
Guilty.
I mean, I think that we're all guilty about going down a YouTube rabbit hole to learn a new skill. I had to do that when building our Discord community. I learned so much from freaking scratch, and it was so hard, and it took me weeks of effort, but it got done, and I learned, and that is a lesson. What are some skills that you knew you had to develop in order to keep it going?
I mean, I listed a few. Replying to emails is one.
No, Chad can do that one. Chad can reply to emails.
Can do that one. What is something that you learned for you?
You know, when you have the level of responsibility of having a platform, and it is a responsibility, we care so much about our community and our listeners because they give so much. They give so much to us. And so we want to really make them proud and make them feel seen and loved. And so when something's coming up, you have to tell yourself, I actually have to get off my butt and do this thing. But you never begrudge it because luckily we're in a space where we have this, I do it for love. We do it because we want to make people feel loved. And so that definitely gets me off my butt and onto the YouTube tutorials for a variety of things. Like, for example, for me, like I had to step up and organize our first big live event, do a lot of the organizing. And I had no idea what I was doing. I have no idea how audiovisual works, how a big theater space works, and getting actual ticket sales and promotion, because our podcast is more than just a podcast. We do live things. We have online communities, and Chad is just so extraordinary at all of that. So yeah, it was diving off the deep end. I'm like, I just have to do this. We don't want to let our people down. And also the other thing is, if I stuff up, people will forgive me.
Right?
People will forgive us because every time I've gone to something and I've heard someone talk badly about their work, or everyone knows someone who's delivered a speech or something and go, oh, that was terrible. And you're like, I heard nothing but the brilliant bits. I don't know what I missed out on, but what I heard was absolutely incredible. People are so accepting of us and our flaws. And I think the fear of not being able to live up to your own expectations stops you from being able to deliver for other people. And other people actually just want to know you, want to see you thrive. And even if you don't meet your own expectations, you're doing a whole lot because, like you said before, every bit counts.
I really love that you said that. And I hope that our listeners can take this to heart. You can get involved in this work at any point, at any level, and it doesn't have to be perfect. When you show up with authenticity and with good intentions, there's so much room for grace and for learning. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and just do the damn thing. I love that you and Chad are doing the damn thing and putting on all these events and making space for bi+ people because we need it. That's the thing. Like, just start something. Bi+ people will show up because they need it. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Like, girl, come on in here.
It will happen. You put a bi flag out and give it 20 minutes and it's a flock of bisexuals have come in. And you're like, oh, okay, here they are.
Yeah, I just have a pair of earrings that say Bicon on them. And someone was like, girl, what do your earrings say? I'm like, Bicon. She said, me too. And then walked away. That's all it takes.
Now that is being biconic.
Yes.
I do just want to ask, kind of a more personal question about your partnership with Chad. And like, what's the one thing that you've learned from him?
That the world is full of good people. Like, truly. And, you mentioned in the advocacy space, there could be a lot of ego. There can be all sorts of things. And ego is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is if you don't channel it right. But to be with Chad and have Chad in my life is to know what unwavering friendship and community commitment and what a good human being looks like.
Okay.
I just love that man so much. And he's taught me so much the entire time I've known him. Like, I remember when I was just a little baby bi, it was about 6 months after I came out, I was invited to speak at a Sydney Bi+ Network event and Chad was helping run it. And I was just going through my mind, like, I know he's got a wife and I'm visibly queer. I sort of came more from the gay community. And I'm like, am I going to be accepted? Like, what's this going to be like? And just to have that complete love and care and acceptance from not just Chad, but everyone in our orbit was really the awakening moment of, that question you ask yourself, is there even a bi+ community? Hell yeah, there is a huge bi+ community. We want everyone in. And so he was really my welcome mat. He was like, he's the one who said, you have permission to be you as a bisexual man are perfect as you are, basically is what he said to me. And yeah, I'm so lucky to have the person that I admire so much in my life.
Well, while we dab our eyes with Kleenex, a word from our sponsors. Hey Killjoys, Bailey here. Big news, our workshop was accepted into Creating Change 2026, which is a huge deal. It means that we're being taken seriously as educators and advocates. Equally big but bad news as that conferences cost real money. Rude. So we were raising $2,000 to send me to Washington, D.C., and our amazing community helped us hit the goal so quickly that we thought, well, let's double our money and give the rest to BIPLUS organizations across the country. And because I am not normal, every single person who donates to this campaign will have their first name written on a dress that I thrifted and dyed purple. That's right, folks. I'm making a NASCAR jacket, and you're coming to Creating Change with me. So yes, we have been lucky enough to surpass our goal, and now we're raising even more to support the BIPLUS organizations that are doing the most with the least. So donate what you can to our Ko-fi campaign, link in bio, and now back to the show. Welcome back. So in this conversation, talking about the future of BIPLUS advocacy, we want to acknowledge that in a way, every generation of BIPLUS organizers has had to carve their own path, right? We're balancing the lessons of those who came before us with the realities of their own moment. But finding your way, finding your path in activism means like figuring out what kind of change you're best equipped to make and how to sustain yourself while doing it. Can you tell us about a moment in BIPLUS history that you've drawn inspiration from? Or are there like any BIPLUS role models or organizations that you look up to?
So I think one of the coolest things about being bi right now in this period, and I'm not sure if every generation, we're the fifth generation, I'm not sure if every generation has felt this. I'm sure they have. I'm pretty sure I haven't just discovered this phenomenon of being like, I feel like things are really getting better. I'm living through a period of extraordinary hope, at least for this community. And so I was thinking about it, I'm like, we're living through history and we are part of history. We are currently writing the story. We are witnessing things happen before our own eyes in the BIPLUS community that we talked about for decades. So much of our history has been taken from us, has been erased, has been written out, and that's an enormous shame. And so while I do my best to try and find those threads to be able to draw from, and I certainly have a lot of BIPLUS elders that I can draw from, just recently here in Australia, we had the Australian Football League, Aussie Rules Football. They wear the short shorts and the singlets on the field. Queerest uniform ever. We absolutely love it, except it's the only major sports league in the world that has never had an out queer player in the men's division. Playing or retired, just no one. And it's wild. They do like these big pride rounds. The women's league is very, very queer. And so this has sort of been this last bastion of no queer representation in a major sport. And just recently, we had the first ever AFL player come out, and he came out as bisexual. And he very proudly said it with his full chest in the paper, with his partner alongside him, with the mother of his two children also alongside him from his previous relationship, and them all saying, this is who I am, this is who he is, we love him, he loves himself. It was just the most extraordinary thing. To have bisexual man in headlines in major newspapers in Australia, not as a joke, not as some seedy, the way that we've always been painted, but as a celebration. And so this moment will reverberate through my own life and will create ripples here in Australia and hopefully around the world as well for a long time. So, we're witnessing history, but at the same time, we honor the people that came before us, the generations of BIPLUS advocates, both seen and unseen, because there are just so many people behind the scenes that we'll never get to know their names, but we know that they're there. And, that basically means every BIPLUS person can inspire us, and we truly do.
Absolutely. And, I alluded to before that we've got this theory that there are currently 5 generations of BIPLUS activists. Gens 1 are working in the 70s. They're bringing us to prominence. And then we've got the 80s and 90s and Gens 2 and 3. I think that's where we last saw a lot of invigoration around the BIPLUS movement and clawing out spaces and saying, we deserve to be here. We are queer. We're used to it. So you should get on board too. And then Gen 4 is kind of the cusp. It's the COVID. That's what happens is we have this COVID breakdown, and that's when the handoff should have happened. That should have been Gens 4 to 5. We're being mentored. We're brought in as leadership. We're being educated. And because of COVID, we saw a huge dip in BIPLUS orgs. Things that just folded. Yeah. We lost people to illness, to mental illness, and we've been trying to get back on our feet. we did lose some pretty big orgs in the last 2 years. But the Bi Plus Equal just got started in Europe. We've got stuff going on in Australia. There are more and more Bi Plus podcasts. So I feel like Gen 5, we're getting ourselves back on our feet and we're saying, okay, I'm tired of talking about visibility. I want to talk about something else. I want us to keep moving forward. So yeah, makes me happy to talk about optimism and hope with someone who is in Gen 5.
Yeah, totally. And this is the thing, I can't help but be really optimistic and hopeful. But that's also because we're coming in such an interesting demographic period, right? We've always seen this rate of expansion of people identifying as bi plus. It's been going on since we've been gathering the data on. Yep. I'd like to say because every generation, the number of people identifying as bi plus roughly triples. And I'm like, well, it's currently exponential. So we're going to have like 210% of people identifying as bi soon. And Chad's like, that's not how it works. 210%. It's like, so we're going to start getting double bisexuals. We're getting an alignment of just really great timing of lots of things. And it really is the time for this generation of advocates to step up. My go-to is The Mummy. They're making a new Mummy.
Aren't they though? It's the sign of the times, baby.
Yes, it is.
This is when we know.
So bisexual is not going to be once every other sexual anymore. It's going to be twice.
Twice as sexual.
Twice every sexual.
And I do agree. I think that the times are showing a critical mass. We are going to reach this critical mass, and I want to be hopeful. Some days I'm more hopeful than others, but that's the nature of life, and that's fluidity for you. But as it comes to these projects that have been working on our podcast, yours, what are some specific steps or stretch goals that you've charted that you want your project to grow into? What are some things that you're really, really looking forward to building?
So we've got the podcast, which you can listen to on all streaming services. And we've got our own online community on Facebook, so the Give It To Me Bi community. Those are the core, those are our foundations. Every now and then we've got live events, so we'll go and host events or do a live podcast recording and panels and things like that. But we also really want to start getting a bit more involved in advocacy work. So here specifically in Australia, speaking about this generationally, we've got some loose strings that need to get tied up. So like, for example, in the state I live in, our anti-discrimination law doesn't protect bisexual people. It protects gay, lesbian and transgender people, but bi people were left out. And we've got, hangovers from things like bi plus people were banned from Sydney Pride, the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras in the late 90s. The only reason why that ban was overturned was because the organisation folded and a new one came up and didn't have that membership rule. So no one's actually spoken about it. So we've got the weight of history behind us. We've got the enthusiasm and hope of the future ahead of us. And so in our advocacy, what can we do to bridge that gap and advocate for law change, but then also advocate for what we see coming along in the future? And, we look around and we look at our community organizations, the big C community organizations. They're really not prepared for what's coming. I don't think a lot of people outside of the bi plus community realize just this wave of pink, purple and blue that's coming towards us. And if we're not fully prepared to meet that moment, if our governments and our organizations and our society aren't ready to meet that moment, it could cause a lot of harm. And so, we're still figuring out where we fit in that space, but having as many bi plus people speaking and contributing and understanding that they are powerful, that's the best outcome possible. Because when people come together, the most brilliant things happen. That's what we want to do. Just bring people together, whatever that looks like.
Just get people in the same room. Get them excited about something.
Like The Mummy, like the new Mummy film coming out. I mean, what's my North Star at the moment? Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser.
Wait, do you think, I think that movie should send some sponsorship dollars to Bi Plus Podcast, because we're going to talk about it anyway, and we should be compensated, is all
literally.
We really should.
Uh-huh.
It's a movie night on the Discord.
Oh, that'd be great.
You should really join the Discord, you and Chad.
No, yeah, I need to. Yeah, right. Sorry, Chad, can you remind me?
Subscribe to Discord.
Write down a note. Hey there, Killjoys! I have a huge favor to ask you. In our show notes, you can find the link to our very first listener survey. We'll ask a few questions about you, your experience, and your platform preferences. Because we're researchers, as we keep growing, we want to make sure this project serves you in the best way possible. So please help us out by taking just 2 minutes of your time to answer a few questions. Now, on to the episode. I love that you're talking about these amazing activism and advocacy goals, because bi plus activism has never looked just one specific way, right? It's as fluid and multifaceted as we are in our own communities. And with social media, research, and global connections just evolving throughout time, so does the way we organize, the way we tell our stories, and how we show support to one another. What do you think is a strength of bi plus activism as it is currently shaped now, today?
I'll say two things, but you picked up on something really awesome because, like, how bloody cool is it that we can connect across oceans right now in this moment and doing what we're doing? COVID was disastrous, but then what it also did in my local community was bring people together online in a really serious way. And so from online communities, we saw real life communities grow from it. And community isn't just your local neighborhood. We live in a global community. And I just pinch myself that I can pick up my phone and go message, RK Russell, the first out by NFL player, and just to be able to connect with people and get mentorship from them and apparently mentor them as well. But I don't know what they want to, the trading of ideas and also just feeling less alone. As a bi plus person, it can feel quite lonely sometimes, and we have to find community wherever we can. And so that's one exciting thing about bi plus activism is this connection and international collaboration, as well as your own local neighborhood. We're looking at different degrees of change. And I tell people, when it comes to advocacy, it can be very personal. It can be in the 1 meter space around you. Are you going to change the mind of someone literally within arm's reach? And for many of us, that is the most important thing to do. And it's valuable and it does create huge change. Every person's mind you changes 10 more. But then there are international things we can do, national things that we can do, and it's easier than ever. And I just love that. It's really cool. And then another strength of bi plus activism as it is today, did I word the question? I've always been told to repeat the question back when you're getting stuck. I mentioned it before, but it's demographics, and we are living through an extraordinary period of our community being very visible and being more and more active. We've still got a long way to go, but our strength doesn't just have to be, it can be a lot of pressure to be a community advocate. You can feel like you're carrying a lot of weight, but community members carry us. We carry them, they carry us. It's really such a group effort. I get a lot of bi people, especially other bi men who may not be out, who may not be community connected. And, they'll say to me, I really wish I could contribute. And I'll ask them, well, what have you done for yourself as a bi person recently? And he'll be like, oh, I came out to my partner. And I'm like, do you know how world changing that is? Do you know how impossible that has been in history? Do you know how good that is for your soul? And I don't know what the outcome of this will be, but what you've done is advocacy. What you've advocated for yourself, and every bi plus person advocating for themselves is in some way advocating for all of us, because we're so unheard, that our experiences are also so unique. There's no one way to be bi plus. There's no one way to contribute to changing how the world sees us, or how our community gathers, or how our community advances our rights. Every little bit. It's really, really every little bit. I mean, long story short from that response is the children of the future. I am not worried at all, really, about our advocacy, because there's no stopping this tidal wave of bisexuals coming towards us, which is already huge and it's about to get bigger. And that's really exciting as an advocate, because it means I can hopefully retire sooner than I was originally planning to. I can go take a breather. I think, one thing that keeps me grounded as an advocate is wanting to be irrelevant. I want to plan my succession. I want to be out of it. I want to retire. I want the things I'm talking about now to be non-issues in 5 years' time. And so seeing people coming through, I'm like, okay, good. My rest is coming up.
My rest is coming. And I think this is exactly where we want to sort of end this conversation about passing the torch. Because part of resisting erasure is creating legacy and empowering the next generation of leaders to take over this work. But they can't take over the work if we're not, one, willing to let it go and become advisors, and two, if we're actually not teaching them how to do anything. It's one thing to be like, oh, I'm making space for the next generation. But if you're not teaching them how to make connections, or how to schedule emails, or how to put on events, or how to build coalitions, then you're just making them reinvent a wheel. So we know that for those of us who are in the fifth gen, it can feel like we still need mentors, even though we're out here doing the work. But we are committed to making sure generation 6 and 7 and 8 are empowered to do it too. So how are you empowering or hope to empower the next generation of BI Plus activists so that we can get our rest and ensure that BI Plus history persists another 30 years?
Yeah, like there's that truism or there's that saying in advocacy of you have to leave the ladder down behind you. You have to leave the ladder down so that other people can climb up. But a lot of people miss the second half of that of you actually have to reach your hand out and help them up as well. It's not good enough to just leave a ladder down and hope that they can get up those steps because you needed help getting up them. You mentioned coalition building. The world, there are rules and structures and things, and I'm terrible at tearing them down, but I'm great at getting in there and messing things up. And understanding how your local community works, how the world works, how people's mindsets work, that's also a really great way to, now I'm just giving like advice, but like that's a really great way to try and mitigate burnout because burnout is going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
You have to understand where your weaknesses are, where those touchstones are, where you have to really check in with yourself. And that's something really, really important in advocacy. Like I can tell people, how to do their research properly and how to book a meeting with this person or how to start a podcast. But then looking after yourself is so important because I think looking back on bioadvocacy and with previous generations, especially here in Australia, burnout has stolen a lot of momentum from us. And that's not the fault of individuals. I mean, we see large LGBTIQ plus organizations that, I'm going to be cynical here, that cater largely to gay people and dedicate a lot of their resources to that. But that's because they can pay their mortgage off the income they're getting for the work they're doing for our community. And the BI plus community doesn't really get that. So Chad and I will always cheekily put in like, money will be a really great help. But yeah, leaving the ladder down and making sure that people do come up and making sure that people don't, I don't know if the word I'm looking for is complacent, but making people feel like this is a movement to be a part of. I don't know how to say this, but like people that don't think that they're advocates. And I'm like, you talking just openly with your friends about your sexuality, even if you're not using the description, and I'm deliberately avoiding the word label, not using descriptions like bisexual or pansexual or omnisexual, and you're just describing your experiences, that is like, that's radical. That's really radical. And it changes, like I said, that 1 meter diameter around you. You're changing that space. And so everyone is an activist, everyone is an advocate, especially in our community. And I think if we took away some of the, I don't know if there's a stigma, if it's uncool to be an advocate or if people, I don't know.
It sounds like real work, right? I think advocacy, being an advocate sounds like a big job. It's something you march in the streets and you change legislation and you do sit-ins and starve-ins and die-ins. And that can be really scary to people. But what you're saying, the radical act of just coming out, makes you an advocate. Sorry, not sorry, but...
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you've done it.
What other advice would you give to people who know what an activist is? They're aspiring to be an activist at any age, not just, young folks, but any aspiring BI plus activist.
I never aspired to be an activist. Like my parents threw me into business school and I am not using that degree to how they intended. It's about more important, don't aspire to be anything. Look inward at your passions. And we've talked a lot here about your skills as well. Look inward and then determine what you can bring to the world and then think, what else do I want to learn? And what else can I bring? What is my place? And that sounds like oddly existential, but it's also a part of growing up as well. When I was in my early 20s doing this like really heavy advocacy way above my pay grade being 0, but like, up against very serious, important people, understanding where you're at and meeting yourself where you are and always aim high. And the best way to aim high is to be hopeful and spiteful. Sorry, I didn't finish my sentence. It's to be hopeful and spiteful, to come through. And it's just so thrilling. This sounds so patronizing, but the kids, my gosh, the kids are just like kicking butt out there and they're doing it so casually as well. They don't realize they're being advocates by the simple act of coming out. I'm so excited.
I love drumming up excitement, right? Like summoning excitement, getting folks excited for all the kinds of advocacy that they're doing, no matter how big or how small. And that feels straight out of like a Disney movie. But it is true. We were talking about this in one of our latest episode debriefs events in our Discord, how important everyday actions are and how you can summon that excitement. Looking to, yeah, I really like what this person is doing. That sounds like so much fun to do. And it's like, get excited, join in. It's a party. Or at the very least, it can be, right? Like, we can make it fun. This has been such a beautiful conversation about what it means to build something from the ground up, build it up with a friend who means the world to you, and how you can grow as people in skills, as professionals. Truly, the work is amazing and inspiring when you're involved. So this was awesome. What should we be on the lookout next from you and Give It To Me By?
Yeah, so me and Chad, the team at Give It To Me By, we are shortly filming our second season, which is very exciting. And it'll be sort of a newish format. It's going to be just really sparkly and fun, and it's just our new iteration. We're really, really excited to come back. It's been a little while and we've missed you all so much. It's been a little while since we've released a new episode. And so we're about to hit the ground running, and then into next year doing more events and more advocacy and just seeing what comes up. And it's like, that looks like a good idea. Let's do that. Audacity will get you far. So I think our plan is to be as audaciously bisexual as possible.
Audaciously bisexual. I love that. Thank you again for joining us, Steve. It was such a delight to get a glimpse into the similarities and differences between us bi+ dynamic duos out there. Thank you so much for embodying the bisexual killjoy spirit and all the work that you do. The movement stays alive and continues forward because of people like you and Chad. Thank you so much.
Oh, Bailey Jace, thank you so, so much. I love you guys. I love the pod. I love all the work. We're doing the damn thing.
Thank you for tuning into Bisexual Killjoy, where we know that bisexuality isn't a phase, it's a phenomenon. To support us, you can share us with your friends, your family, your frenemies, especially during the holiday season. You can subscribe to our Substack and rate our podcast, preferably 5 stars. As always, we do want to hear from you. You can share your stories with us on Instagram or via email at bisexualkilljoy@gmail.com. And we have more thoughts than usual that have been spilling out of us, so please do check out that Substack for more stories, advice, and recommendations. And until next time, keep being a bisexual killjoy.
Stay bisexual and stay strong.